Good day, viewers and listeners. Welcome to Salida TeleRadyo. I am Ma'am Elifie J. Coquilla from La Filipina National High School, your teacher host. Today, we will discuss another scientific topic in Science 9, where you will learn about the concept of projectile motion. To tackle this, I will give now the floor to our teacher broadcaster, Ma'am Janet Duazo Bacalia.
Hello viewers and listeners, we are very glad that despite of pandemic, we will be able to deliver our lesson through Salida TeleRadyo. I am your teacher broadcaster, Ma'am Janet Bacalia. Now, what are we waiting for? Let us investigate, let us discover as we set forth to the world of science. Our lesson for this day is about projectile motion. This is for grade 9 students who are studying science subject and of course for everyone who are interested and is willing to join with us. Our objectives. First, investigate the relationship between the angle of release and the height and range of the projectile. And second, appreciate projectile motion in real-life applications. Before we begin our journey in learning new concepts, let us test ourselves on what we know about projectile motion. The following statements will test your prior knowledge about projectile motion. Kindly get your pen and any sheet of paper to write your answer on each statement. Please answer it honestly. I will just read each statement, and after 5 seconds, I will give you the correct answer. So this is true or false. First statement. Projectile motion involves a curved path that is called the trajectory. Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is true. Second statement. When an object moves both horizontally and vertically, it is called projectile motion. Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is true. Third statement. The horizontal and vertical components of projectile motion are independent of each other. Is it true or false? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is true. Fourth statement. The horizontal velocity of a projectile will affect its vertical velocity. Is it true or false? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is false. And the last statement. A projectile covers a horizontal distance called range. Is it true or false? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is true. How's your scores? I am hoping that you get all the items correctly. Later, after discussion, let us discover and learn more about projectile motion. Now for our viewers and listeners, of course, when I play the sound, you may guess the name of this video game. Shall we start now? First, sound. What do you think it is? Yes, it's a so-called Angry Birds, a very popular game for millennial generation. Now, when I was young, I used to observe using pintik for boys. Mura po siya og Angry Birds, wherein natay angle of release, tapos natay targeton. But for our generation, I will just give you an example, which is shatong. Now, shatong kaway-kaway sa mga parents out there. Ang shatong di ba natay batiw-tiw, tapos naatay mother na stick. So, once katong batiw-tiw, which is now our projectile, pag atuan na to siyang malabay, so there's what we call as curved path trajectory. So, that is a parabolic line. So, now, why is it the angle of release important? Simply because it affects the flight path of a projectile. Okay, second sound.
One half of the Splash Brothers and one of the best pure shooters in the game. Once again, welcome, Stephen Curry. This guy just shocked the world by dropping an NBA record 37 points in one quarter. Give it up for the Golden State Warriors sharpshooter, Klay Thompson. He needs to beat a score of 18 to move into the next round. It's three-point magician, Stephen Curry.
Can you be safe to say most?
So what is it? Of course, that's NBA basketball games. Those are one of my favorites basketball players, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They are very popular for their 3-point shootings. Now, what do you think is common to both Angry Birds and NBA basketball game? Those were just example of projectile motion. Can you recall the recent basketball game you watched? Have you ever wondered why a ball wouldn't just fly on to different directions when it is thrown into the air? Or why it forms some kind of arch when it falls to the ground? If you are to tell now how the ball moves when the players score a basket, how would you describe it? Does the ball follow a straight path from the player's hand to the hoop? What is really projectile motion? So projectile motion is a type of motion wherein an object called a projectile that is thrown into the air and continues to move on its trajectory acted upon the gravity. Now, what is this trajectory? The path followed by a projectile flying or an object moving under the action of given forces. A projectile traces a curved parabolic line because at the same time that the ball is moving horizontally, it is also moving vertically under the effect of gravity. At this instant, the object is undergoing projectile motion. A very popular scientist in the person of Galileo Galilei. Objects fall due to gravity. An object is in free fall when it is allowed to fall without any obstruction such as air friction. So, muna siya students, during face-to-face, sagad sa mga estudyante, pag dili na sila kabalo sa question, di na sila ka-answer, they're just telling me, Ma'am, due to the gravity of the earth. But students, beware, this means, according to Galileo Galilei, that only gravity acts upon the body. That is equal to negative 9.8 meter per second squared. Now, when we talk about motion, most people think of straight line motion, like a toy car traveling across a table, or even you running along the street. But motion also includes objects that move up and down, that is vertical motion. First, a force is applied upward, but the force of gravity immediately accelerates it downward. So that it gives us two components of projectile motion, horizontal and vertical motion. But in real life, isn't always that simple. Often these motions are combined. When an object moves both horizontally and vertically, it is called projectile motion. So what are the two components of projectile motion? We have horizontal motion, or the X component. For horizontal motion, always remember that horizontal velocity is always constant. Horizontal acceleration is always zero. And the horizontal distance is what we call as the range. How about the second component? We have the vertical motion, or the free fall. That is the Y component. Vertical velocity decreases as the projectile moves up and increases while it moves down along its trajectory. Just like kana bitang kung ato ang na-experience, pag magkat-kat ta og bukid at first, hinay kaayo ato ang pagbaktas, no? Kapoy baya kaayo, dugay kay tamabot sa tuktok. But when it comes down, dali ra ta kay kaabot mo ra puging ana. Pero dili lang ta object. We're just human. Another, vertical acceleration is always equal to the acceleration due to gravity, that is negative 9.8 meter per second squared. And of course, the vertical distance this time is what we call as a maximum height. That's why horizontal and vertical components are independent of each other. So the first factor in projectile motion is the range. This is the maximum horizontal distance traveled by a projectile. The trajectories have different horizontal distances, or the range that is reached, but some ranges are quite short. Example, we have 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 75 degrees, and 60 degrees. The question now will be, out of those mentioned angles, which do you think covered the greatest range? Of course, at 45 degrees. Launch at 45 degrees would allow the ball to remain in the air for a longer time, but it would then be launched at a lower horizontal speed at the start, and it would slow down more because of the longer time. Trajectories at 15 and 75 degrees have almost similar ranges. Trajectories at 30 and 60 degrees also have almost similar ranges but longer ranges than those for 15 and 75 degrees. It means that close ranges for pairs of angles that are almost, if not complementary angles, and that the trajectory with the greatest launching angle will have the highest peak. The second factor, the maximum height. This is the maximum vertical displacement traveled by the projectile in its trajectory. Example, a diver. At 0.5 meter, 1.0 meter, 1.5 meter, and 2.0 meter. The question is, at which height of fall is the range longest? The answer is, it is longest for the highest drop of 2 meters. So kung 0.5 meter, it is the shortest. At the peak of 2.0 meters, the height of fall is the longest. And of course, the third one, the time of flight, or the entire duration while the projectile is in its trajectory. The question is, at which time of fall is the longest? Answer should be, the time of fall is the longest for the highest drop of 2 meters, and again shortest at 0.5 meter of fall. Now, what do you think is the relationship between the height of fall and range of a projectile? Simply, they are directly proportional. So kung taas ang height, taas pod ang time covered. This time, students, let's review your learning today. Please take a scan on your notes and review some important things you have written. Let us understand more on real-life applications of projectile motion. In real life, the projectile motion finds application in sports, playing volleyball, football kick in a game, a basketball. While throwing a basketball into the basket, the player shoots the ball in such a way that the flight taken by the ball is in the form of a parabola. Second, the fountain water. This is for beautification purposes, just like sa old city hall nato, wherein natay fountain water. That time, katong face-to-face pata na colorful fountain water. The third one, a cannonball fired from a cannon. Did you know that lantaka or cannon were used by Moro soldiers in the Moro rebellion against U.S. troops in the Philippines? They were also used by the Filipinos during the Philippine Revolution. One cannon founder was Chinese-Filipino named Jose Ignacio Paua. So physics is not only for physical sciences. This physics, this projectile motion is also related or applicable also in MAPE. So, yung art sa iyahang pag-throw sa iyahang trajectory in a curve or parabolic line. And of course, this one, history. And the last one, the firefighters uses projectile motion. They have to adjust the angle and distance of the hose in order to successfully extinguish a fire. A longer distance in a shorter time can be used in the equation, and the velocity of the speed of the water is also taken into account. So, those were some of real-life applications of projectile motion. You're doing great, students! I know you have understood our topic easily. Remember that we are not looking only for knowing and understanding projectile motion, but also how it plays a vital role in our life. Alright, students, we are now on our pause test. Please listen attentively as I read the questions and choices. Write the letter of your answer on your paper. Please answer it honestly. I will give you 5 seconds to answer, and then after, I will give you the correct answer. Are you now ready, grade 9 students? Let's start. Question number 1. Neglecting air resistance, the initial horizontal velocity of a projectile is blank. Its final horizontal velocity. Is it letter A, equal to, B, less than, C, greater than, or D, less than greater than? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is letter A, equal to. So, neglecting air resistance, the initial horizontal velocity of a projectile is equal to its final horizontal velocity. Question number 2. The horizontal velocity of a projectile does not affect its blank. Is it A, range, B, time of flight, C, initial speed, or D, vertical velocity? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is letter D, vertical velocity. Third question. Which of the following is not true about a projectile launched at an angle? Is it A, a projectile is accelerated by gravity in a downward direction? B, a projectile follows a straight path? C, the bigger the initial velocity of a projectile, the higher it goes up in the air? Or D, a projectile moves with a minimum velocity at its peak? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is letter B. A projectile follows a straight path. Last number 4. As a diver moves in projectile motion, what happens to his vertical and horizontal velocities? A, his vertical velocity is 0, while his horizontal velocity remains constant. B, the vertical velocity decreases, while the horizontal velocity becomes 0. C, only the vertical velocity increases, the horizontal velocity remains the same. Or D, both of his vertical and horizontal velocities increase. Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is letter C. Only the vertical velocity increases, the horizontal velocity remains the same. Last number. At what angle should a water hose be aimed for the water to land with the greatest horizontal range? Is it A, 0 degree, B, 30 degrees, C, 45 degrees, or letter D, 60 degrees? Your time starts now. Time's up, and the correct answer is letter C, 45 degrees. How's your scores? I hope you were able to answer the given items correctly. You're such an amazing student. Thumbs up for a job well done. And of course, for your assignment, what can you conclude about the motion of a projectile as it is accelerated? How did changing the launch angle of a projectile affect its time of flight, maximum height, and range? You can pass your answer to your science teacher. That will be all for now. Until next time, this is your teacher broadcaster, Ma'am Janet Duaso Bacalia. Goodbye!
Thank you so much, Ma'am Janet. We're done with another topic this day. I am hoping that you will remember the things you learned today. Continue studying and learning by watching the official Facebook page of La Filipina National High School or by listening to 98.3 Gold FM, ang radyo astig ng Tagum City. Kuyawan, no? And remember this, to achieve your goal is like a projectile motion. It requires greater force of hard work to attain the maximum height of success. Thank you, viewers and listeners. Again, I am Ma'am Elifi J. Coquilia, your teacher host.